The following video is not meant for kids. Viewer discretion is advised. Hello to my subscribers, this is the TFangy coming to you with what will hopefully be a quick and successful review, and today we're going to be taking a look at one of the Transformers action figures from Legacy United that, when it was announced, it brought some excitement to Transformers fans and collectors since it was a character that's designed to interact with two other Transformers characters that had already been given action figures by Hasbro and Takara Tomy. But it's not an original mold, it's a retool of a previously used Transformers action figure, and it is the Transformers Legacy United Deluxe Class Decepticon Quake with his two Targetmaster partners, Heater and Tiptop. So Quake is one of three Decepticon Transformers characters, the others being Spinister and Needlenose, who in the Transformers Generation 1 line were known as the Double Targetmasters. Instead of just one Targetmaster partner, they had two. And Quake technically did get an action figure, the first of the three Double Targetmasters. He got a deluxe class Transformers action figure way back in 2017 during the second year of the Titans Return line. But this version of Quake, infamously, it's just a repaint of Transformers Titans Return Autobot hardhead, with the only difference being the actual Headmaster / Titan Master that transforms into Quake's head. So yeah, the Titans Return version of Quake was him reimagined as a Headmaster instead of a Double Targetmaster. And the Titans Return line, it was originally going to be not just about Headmasters, but every subgroup of Transformers Generation 1 that had the word Master inside them. Headmaster, Targetmaster, who else? Micromaster, Action Master, the Power Masters, how could I forget about them? The Brain Masters, so on and so on and so forth. While this action figure of Quake being a repaint of Titans Return Hardhead, it is somewhat enjoyable, but it's not the greatest action figure of Quake that's out there. So as far as a true version of Quake that's a Double Targetmaster instead of a Headmaster, he was the last of the three Double Targetmasters to be given a deluxe class action figure by Hasbro. Technically, Spinister was the first true Double Targetmaster to be given a modern deluxe class action figure in the Transformers War for Cybertron Siege line in 2019, followed by Needlenose 3 years later during the Legacy Year 1 line in 2022, and Quake rounded off things for the Decepticon Double Targetmasters in Legacy United just last year in 2024 during the 40th anniversary of the Transformers franchise. So far, there has been no word from Hasbro to Takara Tomy if the Decepticon Double Targetmasters, if their Autobot counterparts will be given modern action figures to stand besides them. We did get an action figure of Scoop during the Transformers Thrilling 30 line way back in 2014, and wow, I can't believe it's been 11 years since he was released. 11 years to some people might not seem like a long time, but trust me, a decade is a decent amount of time, and so 11 years is just being 1 year longer. Yeah, that's actually a longer length of time than those who think it's not realize. But focusing here on Quake, as I said, he's not an original mold, he's an extensive retool of the Transformers Legacy Year 1 Decepticon Pretender Skullgrin action figure. And for me personally, Skullgrin is my all-time least favorite deluxe figure that was released in all three sublines of Transformers Legacy in the entirety of the Legacy trilogy. For me, Skullgrin was at the bottom of the barrel and my least favorite of all the deluxe class size Transformers figures. I think Skullgrin, I don't know if he's my all-time least favorite Legacy Transformers figure that was ever released. I think I might get slightly more enjoyment out of Skullgrin than I do for some of the core class Transformers figures that were released in the Legacy trilogy, as few of them as there were. But yeah, Quake here, when he was first released and people managed to get reviews out of him when he first came out last year in 2024, the general consensus from fans and collectors is that Quake, he's not the best Transformers action figure, but he's not the worst. I've seen some collectors say that he's an improvement over Skullgrin. Some say that Quake is just as good as Skullgrin. So yeah, he's right down the middle in being a mediocre level Transformers action figure instead of being one of the best must-have Transformers action figures out there. And just like Needlenose, Quake's two Titanmaster partners, Tiptop and Heater, they utilize the same molds as Needlenose's Targetmaster partners, but they do have some retooled parts of them. Recently I saw a video where it was shown that the fronts of them at least have different sculpted heads and torsos compared to Needlenose's Targetmasters. Recently, Spinister, since he was released way back in the Siege line back in 2019, 3 years before Needlenose was released, he's been given a second action figure in the Transformers Age of the Primes line. Though the catch is that the Age of the Primes version of Spinister is an Amazon exclusive, and it's only available in a 2-pack box set with the Diaclone version of Autobot Jumpstarter Topspin. And the original Siege version of Spinister, while his two Targetmasters were technically released in the Siege line, they were released separately, and one of them was released in the infamously hard-to-find Amazon exclusive Transformers Siege Skywarp box set. So unless you got lucky and got the box set with Skywarp, then you missed out on getting one of Spinister's two Targetmasters, which I believe was Hair Splitter, but he got a new copyrighted name during the Siege line. And so that's one of the reasons why the new Age of the Prime Spinister figure has been released on Amazon, to give Spinister his two double Targetmaster partners, just like Needlenose and Quake got during Legacy. So yeah, there's Quake inside his box. Some people have said that his paint job, it is very accurate to his Generation 1 action figure, more so than Titans Return Quake, whose colors are darker than the brighter paint job used here on Quake. But both versions more or less have the same paint job, where majority of Quake, his head, the center of the middle area of his torso, his arms and his upper legs at his thighs are this like brownish maroon color, almost like a burgundy wine colored brownish red. Then he's got gray on the tank turrets and on his legs, eggs which are formed by his tank treads. And then infamously he has a yellowish gold face and a blue chest to match the blue of his two Targetmasters. So yeah, Quake's definitely a multicolored Decepticon in terms of paint jobs. Here on this side of the box you got some artwork of his face, and here he is jumping into battle wielding his two Targetmaster partners, Tiptop and Heater. Here on the front of the box you've got Quake in his tank mode, and then you've got Tiptop and Heater in their robot modes, since their alt modes are Quake's two laser gun weapons. And then on this side of the box, as I showed before, you've got the 40th anniversary logo for Legacy United. You've got half of the poster where you've got half of Magmatron along with more of the Decepticon and Predacon characters, but then you have some of the Maximals on here as well. You've got Silverbolt, Tasmania Kid, Energon Megatron, Thundertron, then you've got Windblade, Ada, the half of Magmatron that has the Gigantosaurus head, and then you've got two of the Infernac Universe Rocklords jumping out of the background out towards the front with the 40th anniversary logo here on the front of the box. And I love how for the 40th anniversary logo there in the center of the number 0 right above the word years, you can see a black silhouette of Optimus Prime on that logo. So that's really nice there. Here on the back of the box, actually got your product photos. You got Quake in his robot mode and his tank mode. He transforms back and forth between both modes in 24 steps. And infamously, some people discovered that if you don't rotate Quake's arms around while you're transforming him, and I guess it's omitted in the instructions, but you have to turn them around in order for his tank turret to lock in place. Otherwise it'll keep popping up and won't stay down. So that's a little disappointing that the tank turret has to lock in place. Generation 1 Quake, the way he transformed, the tank turret hung off of his back, and so when you transformed him into tank mode, he had a fully functioning tank turret. I think it spun more easily than Generation 1 Blitzwing's tank mode turret was able to rotate, and so that's the only gripe that most fans and collectors have had with the Legacy version of Quake, is that his tank turret is permanently locked. You can't technically rotate it, but you have to almost pop it off and rotate it above the platform that it spins on, almost like the turret's spinning off of it rather than just rotating around 360 degrees. So that's just a main gripe that most collectors have. And then, of course, for the two Targetmaster partners, you got Tiptop and Heater. In robot mode, they're distinguished by the fact that Tiptop has more yellow painted highlights, while Heater has black painted highlights. Tiptop is the Targetmaster that transforms into the single barrel laser gun, while Heater is the one that transforms into the double barrel Targetmaster. So here for the product photo on Quake's box, they're right below their alt modes. Tiptop transforms into the single barrel Targetmaster, while Heater transforms into the double barrel Targetmaster here. So that's really nice that they lined them up on the product photos here on the back of the box. And then, of course, the main gimmick for Legacy United line was the combining of weapons, and Quake's hands are lengthy enough in the fist hole, and the pegs on Tiptop and Heater are short enough that they can both be held by Quake, and he can have a triple barrel double laser gun on him, and that he can wield in battle. And also, that's just some really nice product photos there. So without further delay, let's hurry up and get Quake out of his box and take a close look at him in robot mode. Alright, and so here is Quake out of his box, fully transformed into his robot mode, wielding Tiptop and Heater, and he is, for being a retool of Skullgrin, he is an improvement over Skullgrin. I personally think in robot mode, he definitely has the superior robot mode compared to Skullgrin. And yeah, I just really like the look of him. Some minor nitpicks I have with Quake is that I wish Hasbro and Takara would bring back the silver or white outlines that they used to put on the faction symbols for Transformers characters. I mean, for my camera here, the only way you can really see Quake's Decepticon symbol is if I get it at the right angle of light where you can see it there on the center of his chest. But the shade of blue used on his chest, it's almost the same aim as the shade of purple used for his Decepticon faction logo, and so he almost looks like a factionless Transformer from a distance. I mean, right here, moving him away from my camera, there you can see the light from my ceiling lamp reflecting off of Quake's chest is making the Decepticon logo visible there. But at other angles, it's almost impossible to tell. Well, I know that the faction symbols on Transformers not having any background outline on them, that is accurate to the character's appearance in the Transformers Generation 1 cartoon, which is the paint jobs and appearances that Hasbro and Takara have been giving Chug-style Transformers over the past several years. But I just wish that they would bring outlines back for a faction symbol, since it makes it easier to see them. But again, that's just a minor nitpick with me. One gripe that I do have with Quake is that officially, when you transform him, you're supposed to plug the barrel for the tank onto the back of him, and if you shove it down all the way, it locks in place really hard, and that's because the barrel itself, it's the same shade of gray as the tank turret, and so not only is there a risk of you potentially breaking this thing if you try to unplug it, which I forgot most reviewers had said that if you actually try and push it in all the way like you're officially supposed to do, not only can it stick in there and lock in place due to the layer of black paint used on it, but there's also the concern that over time that black paint is going to chip off and expose the gray plastic underneath it. Why in the world they didn't just make the barrel of the tank cannon out of black plastic, since the only parts of it that are unpainted are the tip and the base that it swivels on? I mean, why didn't they just use black plastic instead? I mean, they use black plastic is used on Quake's robot mode arms and his feet as well. Those black parts are made out of black plastic, not paint. So why the designers couldn't do that with Quake's tank cannon is beyond me. But getting that back in place. So yeah, unfortunately, if you try and plug it back in there, you do have to apply the right amount of force. Or I use 3 fingers to get that open. So yeah, just I've seen other reviewers say it when he came out, but yeah, don't plug Quake's barrel in all the way, because it's gonna stick in there and you're gonna put yourself at risk of breaking it off. So yeah, in robot mode, he looks really great, especially with his Targetmaster partners. In terms of articulation, his head is technically on a ball joint, but it can't really look up and down due to how the boxy shape of Quake's head, along with his chest being completely flat. He can't really look up or down that well, so the ball joint is actually more useful as a swivel joint, so I don't recommend trying to get him to look up and down. But he can at least swivel 360 degrees left, east clockwise, and counterclockwise. Same thing with the swivel joints at the shoulders. The arms can spin at the shoulder 360 degrees, clockwise and counterclockwise. Eyes, they can go outward this far at the shoulder. He does have a swivel joint in the bicep, a hinge joint in the elbow, and there isn't really, unfortunately, any wrist articulation. It almost looks like with the hollowed out bit there right behind the fist, they were trying to give Quake swivel joints, but then they decided to abandon it due to the fact that the hands just flip up into the lower arms when you transform him into tank mode. So if they were going to do a swivel joint, it was abandoned, but please don't quote me on that. I'm just spitballing that. That's just pure speculation. Swivel joint at the waist, so his upper body can spin around 360 degrees left and right, so that's pretty neat there. A universal jointed hips, despite the square shape of them, they successfully can rotate at the leg this forward, this far back. And the legs can go this far back until they hit the tank turret. Legs can go out this far, so Quake can go beyond a full split. Swivel joints in the thighs, eyes, hinged knees, and he does have ankle rockers, which are now a universally common joint that's a given on most Transformers action figures. And the feet themselves, they unfortunately can't rotate up and down due to how they lock in place when you transform Quake's legs into robot mode. But they do have a hinge joint which they use for transformation, so if he didn't have his heel spurs back here hitting the base of the tank treads, Quake could at his feet move his toes up and down if he wanted to. But I can't complain, because I'm just really thrilled with how accurate Quake is. In robot mode compared to his Generation 1 action figure. And speaking of other action figures of Quake, for a size comparison, here he is standing beside Titans Return Quake. And infamously, Titans Return Quake, like I said, the only difference between him and the Titans Return Hardhead action figure is the different face sculpts used on the Headmaster / Titan Master. So, in robot mode, Titans Return Quake, to stand him perfectly still on a solid surface, you have to leave him in a permanently sprawl-legged position. The feet are just on swivel joints that flip in and out at the tank turret. So he doesn't have ankle rockers, and you can't have him standing straight up due to how the feet are angled. So you have to keep him in a permanently sprawl-legged position here. So in more recent years, with Transformers action figures now having ankle rocker joints where the feet attach on an ankle joint instead of to the actual leg, that's allowed for greater articulation and posability with Transformers action figures here. So yeah, depending on how you have their legs positioned, Titans Return Quake and Legacy United Quake are the same height, so they're roughly the same sized Transformers action figures. Titans Return Quake looks slightly bulkier because of the cockpit he has hanging off the back of him, but in terms of sheer overall size in robot mode, they're pretty much evened out. Alright, I apologize. I had to help do something with my family, but I'm back. So I apologize, I forgot what I was going to say before, but moving right along. Get my table set up properly. Here is Legacy United Quake once again. So here he is standing on a solid surface. And for some size comparisons, here he is next to his fellow Decepticon Double Targetmasters. Here is Spinister from the Siege line. Moving him back a bit so I can get him on. Try and get him on camera. His rotor blade wants to be blocked from view. Okay, move the camera forward. And for a size comparison with all three of them, here also is Legacy Needlenose. So here they are, all standing side by side with each other. And yeah, they all look really impressive. I'm really enjoying seeing all three of them standing here beside each other. When I did my review of Legacy Needlenose, I brought out Titans Return Quake to show all three of the Double Targetmasters together with what was the three versions of this trio of Decepticons that was available when Needlenose was released. But yeah, here's Titans Return Quake in the background one more time. So yeah, really thrilled to see a more G1 accurate version of Quake here standing beside Spinister and Needlenose. And before we continue and look at Quake, here are his two Targetmaster partners. I looked over the box to remember their names, Tiptop and Heater. And yeah, they're really impressive looking here. I do admit, though, I kind of wish they would have done a little bit more with their faces, because for both Tiptop and Heater, they just painted their faces. They just painted their faces red, and I just kind of wish they would have done the faces with a little more detailing. But I do enjoy how they turned out. They have the exact same. I was going to say that they have a transformation that's similar to that of Needlenose's two Targetmaster partners of Solar Beam and Zigzag. But yeah, Tiptop and Heater, they're really nice looking. As far as which of these do I like looking at most, Heater with his mostly black, with his black painted highlights, I enjoy him slightly more than I do Tiptop. But they're both equally impressive for what they are. Unfortunately, just like Needlenose's Targetmaster partners, bringing them out here for a comparison. So here are Tiptop and Heater next to Zigzag and Solar Beam. And just like these two guys here, these guys don't have any articulation at all. They aren't even able to move their arms. Pretty much as far as articulation, the only parts of them that move are the barrels of their alt modes of Quake's laser guns. And so you just tip them over, flip the gun barrel 180 degrees, and that's how you transform them back and forth between their alt modes of Targetmaster laser guns to robot mode. And my table is sitting at a slight angle. See if I can adjust it here. That's why they want to keep falling down over, because I'm really tight space here in my reviewing area, so it's hard to get them to stand up properly. And just for some fun size comparisons, I still haven't transformed them yet, but just to have all of the Targetmasters together, here are the Siege versions of Spinister's two Targetmaster partners, Hair Splitter and Singe. So, until the recently released Age of the Primes repaint of Spinister was released, the only version of Spinister we got was his Siege action figure. So here are Tiptop and Heater next to the Siege versions of Spinister's Targetmaster partners, Singe and Hair Splitter. Hair Splitter is the most hard to find out of all these guys, since he is the Targetmaster or Titan Master, if you will, that was sold with Siege Skywarp, so he's really hard to find. Singe, he's not quite as hard to find as Hair Splitter, but he's almost as difficult to find. Even though the Siege version of Singe was sold at mass retail, he was the last Titan Master to be sold in the Titans Return line towards the end of 2017. So he was a tail end or tail line end Transformers figure, and most tail end Transformers figures, because of the last wave of a previously released line of Transformers action figures, most retailers tend to push the final wave aside in order to make room for the first wave of the next line of Transformers action figures. So yeah, seeing because Singe was in that last wave, he's almost as hard to find as Hair Splitter is, but since he was sold at mass retail, he is easier to find online than Hair Splitter. And I do have the new Age of the Primes version of Spinister. That's what I'm going to review next. That's why I decided to get Quake's review out of the way so I could get to that box set. But yeah, here, all 6 of the Targetmasters side by side. The versions of Singe and Hair Splitter that come with Age of the Prime Spinister, they're straight up repaints of Solar Flare and Zigzag from Needlenose. So in terms of the Legacy / Age of the Primes Targetmasters, Tiptop and Heater are the most unique ones since they are their own molds and they aren't mold mates with other Targetmasters. So there they all are. Here are the Targetmasters away. I'm not going to compare them in weapon mode because we saw them when they had them in robot mode. So with that out of the way, let's get Quake transformed into his alt mode and we will wrap up the review. Alright, and so here is Quake transformed into his tank mode. And yeah, it's a very bulky tank, considering the fact that the majority of the tank turret is made up of Quake's arms and robot mode chest. So the tank mode is the weaker of his 2 modes, in my personal opinion. In robot mode, he's very great, very G1 accurate looking, but in tank mode, yeah, he's a boxy mess, for lack of better vocabulary. The Generation 1 version of Quake, he transformed into a very Earth-style looking tank, which looked very similar to the tank modes for Generation 1 Warpath and Blitzwing. So unfortunately, due to how he transforms with the modern engineering that went into retooling the Legacy Year 1 Skullgrin mold into Quake, the tank mode, it didn't quite come out as successfully as some G1 fans would have liked to have seen it. One thing to note about Quake is that his arms transform almost the same way as Skullgrin, and they are the exact same lower arms as Skullgrin. On Skullgrin's tank mode, the arms hung off the back of the tank, and so what they did is they reversed the tank here for Quake, so it faces the opposite direction. On Skullgrin, this was the front side, and this was the back side, so they flipped it around here for Quake. In tank mode, the tank turret, so you can see it from above, that's how far it can rotate left and right before the gun starts to go upward. So yeah, instead of the entire turret being able to turn around like it did on Generation 1 tank, all that really twists is the top of the turret where the gun is connected, and it doesn't even sit center, it's looking forward slightly. If it was in the center position like it was on Generation 1 tank, then it would be sitting in this spot here. Unfortunately, there's no connection allowing it to sit in this spot, and I'm surprised nobody's thought of doing an upgrade kit where the tank barrel at least sits in the center of the tank, because here at least it looks like a Panther tank from World War II, or a World War II style tank where it had the much higher elevated turret compared to the low turrets that sit closer to the tank tray heads on more modern tanks. But yeah, it would have been nice if they would have at least made the gun turret sit in the center, because having it look like a tank with an elevated turret versus what it actually is, where it looks like because when a tank turret is like this, where the barrel's sitting towards the end, that's what happens on modern tanks when the turret's flipped around and facing the opposite direction. So it's almost like it wants to, like if you turn it around here, even with the gun pointing upward, that's upward, even though it's hanging off the back here. Like I said, having it sit here in the top center, that would have been, it would have made Quake even taller in his tank mode, but it would have been, I think, slightly aesthetically similar to a more Earth-style tank than what it actually does. Now, as far as storage for Heater and Tiptop, up here they are in their weapon modes. On the Generation 1 version of Quake, again, there's 2 5mm ports that allow you to do it. On his Generation 1 action figure for Quake, Heater and Tiptop just kind of attach them to the side, and they just hung off here on the side of out of Quake's tank mode. And you could have them facing either forwards or backwards, depending on how you want the tank mode to look with the Targetmasters attached and what your preference is. But with modern engineering, there's now also two 5mm ports on the top up of Quake's tank turret. And I don't remember if Generation 1 Quake, if he was capable of doing this with his Targetmasters, but you can now put Heater and Tiptop here on the top of the tank turret, and now instead of just one gun barrel, he's got four pointing at his Autobot enemies. So yeah, that's one thing you can do. And of course you can have them pointing backwards as well if you want Quake to have cannons facing the opposite direction if you want. But if you want to go all in for Transformers Generation 1 accuracy, then having inserting a Heater and Tiptop here on the front sides of the tank is the most accurate. I'm going to have them pointing backwards just to make Quake look more I think they personally look better pointing backwards when they're on the sides. So yeah, for my own personal preference, as goofy looking as it is, for me personally, this is the best storage for Heater and Tiptop, is having them on the sides of Quake's tank mode facing backwards. So yeah, with guns pointed towards the front and back of him, when in tank mode, Quake is a force that you definitely he's a Decepticon you definitely don't want to get into a fight with unless you're prepared for a brutal assault. And for a size comparison, once again, here he is next to Titan's Return Quake, who is, once again, he's a repaint of Titan's Return Hardhead, just with a different Headmaster / Titan Master. And as far as who is the superior tank mode, even though this guy is basically Hardhead in G1 Quake's paint job, the Titan's Return version of Quake has something that the Legacy version does not, and that is actual wheels that allow him to roll around on a solid surface. And that is the biggest gripe that people had with Skullgrin, and unfortunately it continues here with Quake. For whatever reason, because of how he transforms, the designers at Hasbro and Takara Tomy decided there was no way of being able to put any type of plastic wheels on the tank treads, so he does not roll around. His tank treads are non-functional. There aren't even plastic wheels under there, so yeah, as far as mobility, that's it. Quake is not moving anywhere. You have to use your own imagination and just slide him across the surfaces to get him to move. So yeah, he is a tank that is not mobile by any means, not unlike Titan's Return Quake, as you just heard, with his little plastic wheels. He can actually roll around on a surface. So unfortunately, that is for Generation 1 fanatics and people who prefer Generation 1 Quake versus Titan's Return Quake being a Headmaster instead of a Double Targetmaster. In tank mode, Titan's Return Quake has the Legacy version beat out in terms of mobility. But for everything else, Legacy Quake has the Titan's Return figure beat out in terms of G1 accuracy, being an Earth-style tank instead of a Cybertronian-style tank, and instead of being a Headmaster, actually having his two Double Targetmaster partners here with him and ready to fight the Autobots. Alright, and for a size comparison, once again in alt mode, here is Legacy United Quake next to Legacy Year 1 Needlenose, and also Siege Spinister, who, if you actually, the best weapon storage, for those lucky enough to get Singe and Hair Splitter, the best weapon storage for them I found that doesn't look goofy and doesn't interfere with the helicopter blade is putting them here on the bottom of Spinister, where the two non-transforming laser guns that he came with officially are supposed to attach. So he doesn't sit up straight, and I'm propping him up with my thumb, and he does want to tip all the way back like this and pointing up and be pointing upward. But yeah, this is the Siege version of Spinister with his Siege Targetmaster partners partners here. So here are all three of the Decepticon Double Targetmaster standing side by side. Alright, and they all look pretty great standing next to each other. In terms of which of these guys are my favorite one, I still like Spinister the best, but Needlenose is a very close second, and unfortunately, poor Quake, he is my least favorite of the three, just due to the fact that unlike Spinister and Needlenose, which are original molds, Quake, instead of being an original mold, he's a retool of Legacy Skullgrin, which, as I said earlier in the review, he's my least favorite deluxe class figure in the entire Legacy trilogy. But considering what Hasbro and Takara had to work with, I'm not disappointed that they only did with how Quake turned out, and I do not regret adding him to my collection by any means. I do prefer seeing him stand side by side with Spinister and Needlenose than I did with Titan's Return Quake here. So yeah, they are a pretty good-looking trio of Decepticons, and there were only a total of 3 Double Targetmasters released in the Transformers Generation 1 line. So it is nice to have the trio complete, even more geo-accurately completed with Quake here. Sorry, my voice is starting to fail me, and to stop myself from babbling any further, to wrap up the review, for the final proverbial question, do I recommend getting a Legacy United Deluxe Class Quake and adding him to your Transformers collection? I do if you're a fan of the Double Targetmasters, and if you already have, like I do, if you already have Quake's Double Targetmaster teammates of Needlenose and Spinister, then I do highly recommend getting him. And even if, like me, you also already have Titan's Return Quake in your Transformers collection, I still recommend getting Legacy Quake and adding him to your Transformers collection. Even though he's a retool of a figure I don't enjoy, Legacy Skullgrin, I still prefer the Quake's use of this mold over Skullgrin. Unlike Skullgrin, Quake doesn't have any parts that are made out of rubbery plastic. The main concern I have is that is not so much with Quake himself, but with Heater. When you plug him into a Quake, just like the barrel of Quake's tank cannon, and in the parts on Heater that are all done in black, it's black paint instead of black plastic, so the fear is that the black paint could scrape off over time, and that's actually true for, I noticed here in my review as I was transforming Needlenose. I believe Zigzag is the black and yellow Targetmaster partner for Needlenose, but he's made entirely in black paint. He's actually made out of almost the same shade of blue plastic that Solar Beam is made of. Same shade of blue plastic as Needlenose. Why in the world Hasbro and Takara aren't using black plastic and they're resorting to using black paint is beyond me. I guess black paint really is cheaper than black plastic is. But yeah, some of the paint has scraped off and it's now sticking to the 5mm port on Needlenose. I was there, so that's a fear I have, that there could be black paint scraping off and sticking to the surface of Quake. Here from Heater, but if you can overlook those things and you can overlook how goofy looking Quake's tank mode is, like I said, his robot mode is really spectacular. It's where Quake shines, is when he's transformed into robot mode. So if you can overlook how goofy, immobile, and disproportioned Quake's tank mode is, and you can enjoy the robot mode and how much more geo-inaccurate he is than his Titan's Return action figure, then yeah, I think Quake is a fairly decent Transformers action figure to have in your collection, and I do highly recommend getting him. He may not be a must-have figure, and he might not be the greatest, but yeah, to sum up my answer to do I recommend getting Legacy Quake and adding your collection, I do. If you're a fan of Quake, you like the Decepticons that have a mostly maroon, blue, and gunmetal gray paint job. So he's not a must-have figure. I do not recommend hunting him down unless you're a real fan of the Decepticon Double Targetmasters. But yeah, I do recommend getting him. So thank you guys all so much. Thank you for your continued support. This has been the TF Fan Geek. Hopefully I can keep the next review to a shorter amount of time than I did with Quake here. So until next time, you guys, thank you so much for your continued support. Thank you to all my friends and subscribers. And until next time, you guys, please remember to stay safe, stay healthy, transform, and roll out. Goodbye, everyone.